There's one issue that when they are asked about it fairly in an honest way, Republicans and Democrats almost unanimously agree with. And we've talked about how there is more and more consensus on marriage equality, for example. More than half of all Americans now believe that gay and lesbian couples should have, at least at minimum, the same rights as heterosexual married couples, regardless of whether it's called marriage or not. It's at least a move in the right direction. More consensus on abortion. For the first time since the survey started, more than half of Americans believe that abortion should be a legal medical procedure to which women have access. Even more when you ask people, forgetting about these names like socialist or government health care, when you just say to people, should the government provide some basic level of health care for people who live here? More than 2/3 say yes. However, these are not the issues that I am talking about. I am talking about the issue of inequality, where 91% of Republicans and 93% of Democrats think that we have too much wealth and income inequality in this country and actually want, over the wealth distribution of the US today, the wealth distribution of Sweden. This is amazing. Now, you might be saying, hold on a second, David. There was a Gallup poll done last month, and it found that only 54% of Republicans think that we have too much inequality. You would be right. The poll was bogus. The poll was tainted by what we know is an incredibly skewed perception of what income distribution actually is. Remember, Lewis, we talked about a study where people were asked, draw, dividing up into quintiles, what you think the income distribution is right now in the country and what you think it should be. And incredibly, people don't realize how unequal the income distribution is in this country. So what this other study did is it asked people, it was done by Dan Ariely, by the way, of Duke University, and it found that if you show people, here is the income and wealth distribution of Sweden, and here is the one for the United States, they weren't labeled as such, which do you prefer? 91% of Republicans and 93% of Democrats favor the less unequal Swedish income distribution. Almost no difference at all between Republicans and Democrats. And this is very telling for two reasons. Number one, it confirms how significant of an issue income inequality is and how important it is to people. But number two, it shows us that when we remove our thinking from the two-party system and just give nonpartisan options, you see that once again, the progressive view happens to be the most popular one.
Right. And if you ask me, this is just a common sense issue. And the funny thing is, if you do throw back in the two-party system and ask a Republican if they would favor the Swedish wealth distribution
They
system
would say,
in
of
this
course
country,
not.
no, they'd call you. They'd say you're a socialist, you're a communist, you're a fascist, one world government, blah blah blah. That's what they'd say.
Now, politicians don't really want to have their constituents know what the actual income distribution is. Politicians are elected in great part, well, number one, many of them are millionaires or even 100 millionaires, and they profit handsomely from a system in which this level of inequality is an important piece. Why on earth would our elected officials want to tell us how unequal things actually are? And this is a very interesting study, and it just confirms much of what we've been thinking for years.